Hello everyone and welcome. In this video I'm going to be looking into why I was wrong about The Walking Dead's Judith when she first appeared on the show, as well as why I might have been wrong about some of the other children on The Walking Dead. This video will contain spoilers from the TV show and the comics, so please do bear that in mind. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. In August 2017 I made a video titled 5 Crazy The Walking Dead comic book moments that didn't make it to TV. One of the examples I included in this video is the messed up moment in which Laurie is shot at the prison whilst carrying the baby Judith, with her falling to the floor and smothering the baby to death as a result. It's probably one of the most, if not the most, shocking moment from the comics, and I get why AMC changed it up for the TV show. And with Judith now being the cute but deadly kid that she is, I'm glad in this instance that The Walking Dead didn't stick to its source material. However, the funny thing is that when I made the comic book moments video, I didn't share this opinion at all. Now, I can't remember the exact wording that I used, but I said something along the lines of Judith should have been killed as she is never going to end up doing anything significant or adding anything to the show. Oh boy, did I get that one wrong, and boy do people like to keep reminding me. I'm okay with that though, because I've never been one to shy away from my mistakes, and I've made quite a few on YouTube. I mean, when I first started out, most of my content centered on video games, and I actually made a video about why the Nintendo Switch would flop. Yeah, I couldn't have really got that one more wrong if I tried. Anyway, the point of this video isn't to go over all the mistakes I've made on YouTube in detail, as we'd be here for quite some time. But if you do want to know some of them, then I've put some of them on the screen now, so enjoy! Now instead, the point of this video is to look at whether my opinion of Judith has changed, not only due to how The Walking Dead has utilised her character this season, but also because of the changes I've gone through as a person. I'd like to think I'm a lot more mature now than I was when I made the comic book video. Okay, maybe I've actually gotten less mature. However, I am a dad of nearly 2 years now, which I think has subconsciously made a big difference in the way I think. I've noticed a change in myself, especially of late, when it comes to my tolerance of kids on TV. Now don't get me wrong, I still think most of the children on The Walking Dead are horribly written and as annoying as a cold that won't go away, but I can certainly empathise with them a lot more now. Let's use the example of Judith dying again for a moment. Now, during season 4 of The Walking Dead, Judith was a baby, and I originally saw her as nothing more than dead weight. I didn't agree with the decision to keep her alive, as I felt that babies were nothing more than a hindrance in a post-apocalyptic setting. In addition, I didn't think the show would go on to do anything with her. I saw her as just being this background character who would appear every now and then just to make sure we as viewers haven't forgotten that she was still alive. So if this were all she was destined to do, surely it would have made more sense just to stick to the comics and kill her, right? Well, although I guess you could argue that some of these points I made at the time were valid, I can't help but think, looking back on it now, that this is some very dumb logic on my part. I said I didn't think Judith was going to add a lot to the show. Well, no shit. Obviously, with Judith being a baby, she wasn't going to instantly be a main character now, was she? What did I expect? Her to suddenly start running around banging walkers on the head with a rattle? Just because of that specific moment in time Judith wasn't able to contribute massively to The Walking Dead isn't a good enough reason to say she would have been better off dead. If this logic were applied to every single character, Carol wouldn't even be around now, as she didn't do an awful lot during the first 3 to 4 seasons of the show, and only from season 5 onwards did she develop into one of the main characters. So yeah, I think this was some pretty weak reasoning to have on my part regarding why Judith should have been killed. The second reason why I think I was more in favour of Judith being killed at the time was because I didn't see why killing kids in fiction was considered to be so taboo, and I felt that The Walking Dead took the cowardly route in keeping her alive. Now, before someone accuses me of being a psychopath, I'm not someone who hates kids. I'm the eldest of 6 siblings, and I've always been around kids most of my life. In fact, I actually wanted to be a primary school teacher when I left school. That was until I did a stint in a reception class, which was like walking into the fiery pits of hell itself. I still remember it. It haunts me to this day. The screams of children as toys fly through the air, narrowly missing, avoiding piercing my eyeballs. Children wetting their pants as the ill kids puke their lunch up everywhere. The mess, oh god, the mess everywhere, the chaos around me, and then spending hours cleaning the classroom only for it to end up a wreck again the next day once those horrid kids returned. Don't make me go back, please. I don't want to go back. Please don't make me, no. Anyway, what I meant to say is that trying to teach a class of 30 kids who want to run around like lunatics and beat the crap out of each other isn't easy, and let's just say it was at that point that I realised teaching wasn't for me. Any teachers out there who are watching this, I bloody salute you, because I could never do what you do. Anyway, like I said, killing kids, who cares, right? I mean, most of the kids in The Walking Dead are annoying anyway, so good riddance. Well, strangely though, I don't think like this anymore. I'm sure you all know I've been watching Game of Thrones in order to catch up with the final season, and that show does not hold back when it comes to offing children. Now, I'm not going to spoil too much, but I'm going to use the example of a certain someone who gives the order to kill all the children who could have a claim to the throne. Had I first watched this play out a couple of years ago, I would have probably taken the view of, oh well, they're just some random kids of characters who I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's horrible and all, but yeah, don't really care. The reality, however, is that when I watched this scene for the first time a couple of months ago, I couldn't believe it. I felt horrible. I hated the person who gave the order. It was just disgusting. And I'm certain that I'd feel the same now if Judith were to die in the manner that she does in the comics. So why the change of heart? Well, I think when you have a kid, you realise how devastating it would be to lose them, which is why I've been horrified at some of the stuff I've seen in Game of Thrones. You don't kill kids. Kids are supposed to be looked after and protected, and maybe that's part of the reason why I've grown so fond of Lydia in this season's The Walking Dead, because she has a mum who doesn't do either of those things. Now, I don't want to sound like one of those pretentious wankers who bangs on about how being a parent will change your life, because to be honest, before I had a kid, I used to roll my eyes at anyone who said that, but it actually kind of does change your life, and it does change you. Now that I have a daughter, I can appreciate the bond that a parent has with their child, and in Judith's case, I don't think it really mattered until this season she was a kid who didn't do a lot, because I realise now how important she was to those who look after her. Of course, it's still possible to feel empathy for children, both fictional and real, without being a parent or a carer for a child for that matter. Those who may not be able to have kids, for example, might still wince at the thought of a child dying in a TV show. I, however, didn't really see it as being anything worse than an adult dying, but now I do, and perhaps I've been too harsh on children in TV shows in the past. Granted, I didn't hate every single fictional child before I became a dad. I've always cared for The Walking Dead's Clementine since she was first introduced, for example. However, I think I am a bit less cynical now than I was. This new outlook of mine doesn't just apply to Judith. I think there's also other children on The Walking Dead who I now think differently about. I still stand by the fact that Carl was an annoying brat a lot of the time, but most kids are, and maybe I've been too harsh on him over the years. There's a scene in The Walking Dead second season in which Carl is playing with a walker which is stuck in the mud, with the walker managing to wriggle free due to Carl provoking it. This very same walker would then go on to kill Dale when the old bugger was having a piss in a field. Now, I've watched this scene of Carl with this walker a number of times, and practically every time I found myself thinking, what the hell is this dumb, stupid kid doing? And with Dale dying shortly after, Carl was the one who I blamed for his disemboweling. However, now I'm not too sure. Carl shouldn't have played with the walker, that much was obvious, but kids are adventurous, curious and naive creatures. Whilst an adult would have categorically known to leave that walker alone, I don't think Carl would have. Children learn from the mistakes they make, and it's just a shame that this mistake ended up with Dale dying, and I don't think you can pin the blame for his death solely on Carl. Just the other day, my daughter decided to try eating some crayons. We as adults know this is a dumb thing to do, but someone who is a year and a half old doesn't. Hopefully she's learnt her lesson, because you should have seen her face when she realised how disgusting they tasted, and that should be something that sticks in her brain, making her think, well, I'm not doing that again. Well, you know, maybe it won't. Maybe she'll just try eating them again like an idiot, but the point is, kids aren't perfect, and maybe I shouldn't have been judging them by the same standards that I set for adults. Going back to Judith for a moment, I know not everyone is a fan of her, but I've really liked her this season. Yeah, she's done some stupid shit, but that doesn't mean I don't care about her. In the same way that I still care about my daughter when she decides to wake me up at midnight because she feels like having an hour-long conversation with me. And yeah, that really does happen when I have work the next day as well. Bloody kids. Judith and Negan's relationship has been one of the best things about season 10, and Negan becoming a father-like figure to her has been one of the reasons, if not the main reason, for me beginning to like him. And maybe that's because I'm a dad and I understand the father-daughter relationship. Who knows? The point is though, when I made that original video, I was wrong. I think The Walking Dead was right to change things up from the comics in this instance and keep Judith alive. That's not to say that I think that what happened in the comics is wrong or inferior when compared to the TV show, just that not everything that works in the comics will work on TV and vice versa. Perhaps I've also been wrong about other kids on the show as well, and you know, perhaps I've been wrong about kids on other shows and other works of fiction. I believe that people's attitudes and their thoughts will always change over time, and mine certainly have. have, which is why I'd felt the need to make this video. And I hope that you all got something out of it. So yeah, that's just me holding my hands up saying I was wrong about Judith, and you know, maybe I've been too harsh on the kids in The Walking Dead in the past, and maybe I've been too harsh in other shows. You know, something's happened to me that I noticed in which I seem to be more sort of patient and accepting of kids in TV shows now, and maybe that's been reflected in some of my videos. I mean, I hope it has, but yeah, just let me know what you think. Is this something that's happened to you, or you know, do you dislike The Walking Dead's children, or you know, can you see it both ways? Yeah, I know it's a bit of a random video, but yeah, like I said, I hope you got something out of it. But anyway, I'm waffling on and talking shit. So thank you again for watching. Take care. Goodbye, and all the rest of it. I don't know what. I need to go to bed. Bye.